I guess so. I mean, usually like my style, like when I do interviews in the radio, I was the one
Okay, you
doing
do
the
it then. You do it then.
announcement.
Okay, you do
All
it then.
right. Okay. So I haven't prepared that way, but I'll try to go
Don't worry
spontaneous.
about it. I'm
Yeah.
not
Okay.
worried
Cool.
about it. What's
All right.
best is
Cool.
the content and the answers. Like that's what people want. So keep it chill. Keep it easy.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready when you're ready.
Yeah. I just lost my page. Let's see. Okay. All right. So wait, last thing here.
Sure.
I should try to find my my partner's headphones because then,
Okay, take
I
your
mean,
time.
I'm recording here, you're
Sure.
recording there, so you only have the computer sound.
Yeah. Don't worry though. If you want to get it, it makes it better. Take your time.
Do you have speakers?
Yes, I do.
Do you use sounding speakers right
I
now?
do right now because this mic doesn't really pick that kind of stuff up very well.
Okay. Uh, do you, as a previous Yeti owner, do you know like if I have that ghost setting, then it's probably just
I can't see it. It gets too dark. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's the one if you imagine the ghost in Pac-Man.
Yeah. It should be that one because it only goes directional that way, right?
Yeah, so it should be chill, but let me just check in that way.
Yeah, man. Like from my listening to you on my end, it sounds really good.
Okay. Okay. So will you you will capture the video as well?
Yes, I will. I'm recording.
Okay,
Got
cool.
it
Yeah.
all ready to rock.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay.
Hmm. All right. Okay, so my name is Adam Timander. I am a Swede who has been on Rich's courses and on his content for a while now, and have a couple of clients working as a digital marketer. That's the only thing I do right now. I used to be a journalist, and yeah, I wanted this opportunity to interview you, Rich, to see what kind of questions we can get out of this.
Perfect. So it's kind of like
So
a deeper dive from a student's perspective.
yeah, exactly. Like a lot of questions. I know I have like a bunch of questions every time I watch content and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I'm sure there's a lot of it in the back of my head as we
Right.
go through.
No problem. Well, fire away when you're ready. Let's get into it. And feel free to follow up as deep as you like.
That's awesome. Okay, so like the first thing I was thinking about for this session is like the thing that kind of led me to you was I've been in it for maybe coming up to a year. And the thing I was going through the most right then, like I was having a minor crisis at that point because things got overcomplicated. So many moving parts. I was learning more and getting more and more like thinking I know less. Um, so I stumbled across your content and it was so like simple to get a grasp of the of the most essential things necessary in, and I would say like in the beginning at most. So at least for me that was the value. So that was the kind of thing I was curious about, like what is your view of like starting the journey, like what is, how can you make it in the simplest way, like to move forward, to make it fast and not fast and easy, but I mean.
I hear you. It's a tough game, digital marketing. I think because it lies on the highest level of business, meaning, there's sort of a sense of business building when you're doing digital marketing, because you could be the one who's scaling the business from 5 figures to potentially mid 6 figures, maybe beyond. Digital marketing plays a big role in scale. And I think that when you've got scale, you've got a lot of potential, right? Because like, what's the big difference between like, the mom and pop, store on the side of your community road versus an Amazon, right? It's scale. And I think like that is what is separating businesses today. And I think that Amazon was a master of Google AdWords. That's how they built their business. And I think that they use digital marketing to grow. So what's complicated is that people are starting to enter a world they've never seen before. And that's why you get, worried and crisis, as you say. And then you get that Dunning-Kruger effect of you think you know a lot, so you go into it and then you realize you know nothing. And then you're worried. You're like, shit, like what actually works? And I was on that same path myself, right? I was seeking what worked a long time ago, right? I was on eBay in the late 90s, had a PayPal account when I was 16, selling all sorts of stuff on eBay, learning that digital hustle. That's back, almost 21 years ago now. And I was still just searching, like, what are people doing and how do we make more money? And the reason you're doing that is because you'd rather do that than go for the traditional 9 to 5 work life, which has sort of declined in the recent years due to inflation and what you can ultimately make in some of these positions. And I think, you're looking for something that's going to bring money quickly to get started, because that will help you take action. You're like, oh, well, this is going to work. This is going to make money. And I think people don't know what that really is. What is the real elements that allow us to make money online? And I think like I've been trying to figure that out this whole time. And I do think I discovered that about 3-4 years ago, like, oh, if I have these elements, I will be successful. And those aren't simple. Those aren't cheap necessarily. But I did discover them, and I think I've been using what I call the 12-point funnel audit. Like I use this terminology throughout my content, my courses. There are these 12 things that I'm looking for in every single, business situation. And if they're missing one of those, I highly, highly recommend they do that before anything else. And now we could go into those 12 things, but that in itself would become this kind of long-winded answer. And what I'll say is that there is basically what's called a best practices user experience, meaning this is what people accept when they want to spy things online. There's a different feeling than when they go to the store versus when they go to a website. And I think like that's what you want to figure out ultimately. But the thing is that may change over time, but in my observation, it hasn't changed that much. I think you're asking a really difficult question because I actually have another answer, and that like what I did to start out wasn't necessarily what I'm saying. What I did was like some classical business structuring. I set up an office in my house. I committed an office area. Like, this is where I do this work. Then I wrote out, what is my objective? Then I wrote out like my vision of my organization in the future. And it's like, where am I today? And where do I want to be? Then I started, filling out my systems, and I decided who I wanted to target and what I'm capable of. Started setting up things like Calendly, Zoom, a CRM, getting organized, right? I think that when I transitioned from like small project gig work into like a bona fide professional marketing service provider, like those elements needed to be there. And I think whether those were a high impact or not, that's what I did. And I don't really want to say anything than what I truly did. And then I just called people. I called people that knew me already or they'd done a project with me. I said, listen, I'd like to be your marketer, and I'd like to do things for you that will help you in marketing, because I know you're the only one running your business right now, because solopreneur businesses are very common these days. And those have been exploding alongside the internet. And that's what's leading to this like digital marketing gold rush. So I think like there's a combination of two things of, if you want to get serious and you want to know what to do when you start out, it's to start acting serious and to start becoming a professional. And I think that that needs to coincide with, I have a fundamental understanding of how to help people make more money. And one thing I tweeted the other day, and I think it's very important, is many people, they just start a service. And I've done this too. And it's like, I'm doing this service now. I make Instagram posts, or I write copy, or I make videos. And they don't really know what that's going to do. And then when the next client comes along, the client says, well, what have you done? And it's like, well, I made some videos. And it's like, well, what did that do? And it's like, well, it kind of did this and that. That's kind of the wrong approach. The actual approach should be this. You say to yourself, I'd like to be in the business of helping people double their sales. Double it. That's it. I want to help people 2x their sales. I want to help you grow 100% within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And that's it. And then what you do is you pick a project that you can figure out if you can execute to double their sales. And then you say, what did it take to double the sales? So instead of assuming you'll get results. It's about working towards results, then looking at the totality of what you accomplished along that journey. And that is your new service. And you repeat that for the next person because you proved you can get it. And then from that day on, you're saying, hi, my name is Adam, and I help people double their sales online. And here is exactly what I did for this person. Versus, here's Karen, and she's all like, hey, I can, make your Instagram pop in with a great style and you're going to have a cool brand. It's like, but what will that get me? Because that's what the business owner wants. This was a very long answer. It's a very large question. This is all I'm going to say so far. I think you need to take it into the next question.
So yeah, that's interesting. So the MVP, like that's the one of the most biggest takeaways I had of the first of your course, full stack sale.
Marketing funnels, yes.
Yeah. So the MVP of like getting stuff going and
Right.
getting a funnel up there and like being available. Can you expand on that? Like,
yeah, sure. So let's assume like you don't take my case study approach and you just like, I need to get started. I've been doing websites for 3 years. I've been writing copy for 18 months. I started making Facebook ads a year ago. Like, yeah, you're ready. Great. Here's what you need: a website that clearly says what you do. And so if you can't take the case study approach, your website still needs to say like, I help businesses grow because I do this for them. And then you can show them, look, I help this business grow here, and then I help this business grow there. You still need this website experience where people can see if you're a professional. And when we say MVP, let's make sure people know what that means. That means minimally viable product. Now, you got to be careful because, MVP is typically used in startup culture where you're creating something that's never been done before. And so you don't even know if it's going to work. But if you're going into digital marketing, freelancing, or agency life, that is kind of a proven model. It does work. And so what you're really asking is, what is the first set of items I need before I can call myself a professional? I think that's kind of what you're saying, because if you can do the work, there are people out there who will need your services. And I think we have to assume you can do the work. We can't really have these combos if you haven't even touched this stuff, right? And so I think the website and some social presence. You don't have to have a massive account, but you have to show that you're a professional, because it's very, very common now that people will look you up on Instagram. They'll try to search you just to see what you're about. And people can gather so much. Even if you just have 12, 15 posts, you can say what you need to share what you do. And I think like it's always scary because digital marketing is so close to social media. It encapsulates social media. So people are like, well, how come you're a digital marketer and you don't have 1 million followers? It's like, well, that's a complex answer. But the fact is we can't have everyone having 1 million followers. That would kind of not work. And also like, there can't always be people in front of the camera. There are sometimes people behind it that support those people. So, people shouldn't be asking that question. So I think it's website, a little social presence. And if you have one case study, that's why I always recommend that as soon as you finish my course, you need to ask a friend or family if you can help them build out their funnel. And I want to be clear, when I say funnel, all I really mean is like a user experience that entails like upfront value. You give away something for free to see if people are interested. The right person bites. You give them an email experience, and then they're made an offer at some point, whether that's you call them, whether that's another web page. Getting that experience from your friend or family is going to help you with that first case study, because they're going to be a smaller project. Everyone has one friend or one family member who has an Etsy shop, who's on Shopify, who has an online service, and you should be helping them and say, listen, I will help you for free because you're my friend and my family. Listen, I'm trying to become a consultant or a marketer. I need case studies. I'll work pretty hard for you. I'll do 6 hours a week and I'll show you some results. You give me a testimonial at the end. That's it. 3-month, 6-month contract. That's it. That's how I approach it. Website, an Instagram account to show you're a real person, and then hustling with your friends and family until you have that first case study. Then you can call yourself like, hey, I'm in the game. I'm ready to do this. And if you absolutely don't have friends or family, then you just make up your own projects for yourself. I just started blogs, like start niche blogs. That trains you and helps you prove whether you understand what you're doing or not. Because if you can't get traffic to a niche blog, it means you don't understand SEO. Well, that's really the end of it. It means you don't understand SEO. And SEO is not some fancy tactic in 2020. SEO is sort of the blood of digital marketing. I mean, everything is search optimizable these days. Everything should be done with search in mind. It's not some extra service you need to tack on necessarily. It is, but it's also within everything you do. Like if you're going to make that web page and you have an opportunity to write a title and you will write that title, why would you not write that title knowing the client's keyword and make sure it's there? It doesn't take any extra effort. And so SEO itself has become part of best practice. Okay. Do you see where I'm going with all of this now? I mean, this is an endless discussion of pathways and journeys. And I think each person has to listen to what I say and try and apply it in their own form, because it's never going to be a one size fits all.
You mentioned the other day, I think it was on Twitter, you wrote like you could do a WordPress site for like $800.
Right.
And I was thinking a lot about that. Like this is a little bit past where I am now, but it's mind-boggling to me. Like you could do so many things like just to get started. Like
Yeah.
if you needed to get that momentum, that push, you could do like a WordPress website for $800 or blog posts, or knowing you're probably not going to make that direct result, but just getting by in the beginning.
Right. Because that was when I started. I would normally, if someone wants that, I say, hey, I don't really do that anymore. I'm getting to the place now where it's like, hey, it's a minimum of 5, even 10,000 just to get started. Because when you get good, you lengthen your process and make it more complex. Let me explain this one. It's very important. A lot of people don't realize this. It's great to make an $800 web page, but there's a reason it's only 800, because it only takes a few steps. But if I'm going to help you reposition your brand, optimize your website, reconfigure your social media, create a content plan, execute on that plan, track that plan, and then repurpose all that content, that is a 6 to 12 month process that very few people in the world can do. And that's what takes the price way up, because you have a process that no one else really knows and can do through your experience. You're like, I know what works, right? And so what I'm teaching is what works for me. So that's why people get a lot of value from me, because I'm the person who unlocks the components that required for success. I don't give you success. You've got to go do it. But I know I'm removing a lot of mystery for people. So do you understand like why the digital marketer would ultimately create a more complex process, and then how that helps you become more valuable to people? Because there are less people able to do it. And then that's more exciting to the client, because I had a client the other day who spent $5,000 on consulting, and he asked me, I was like, oh yeah, after this, we'll probably do like a 6-month thing. He's like, well, what happens after 6 months? You're going to leave me on my own? Like he was already thinking, I need this all the time forever, because this is going to bring me value in my business. Like I need someone to be supporting me in this area. So this law firm, they've never gone into marketing. They don't think about marketing. They use a very mainstream marketing agency who does all the other law firms. They get a very cookie cutter experience. This is where the freelance marketer come in and save the day and be like, oh, they didn't even tell you should try YouTube ads, or they didn't even tell you like you're not optimizing this. They didn't even tell you. Like that's what's happening right now all across the world, is a recalibration for so many businesses, whether you're small or big. It's like, it's time to take a look at digital. Who are we going to call? The digital marketing consultant, right? People need more consultants. A lot of people don't understand what consulting really is. And it's a higher level game. It's not for like mom and pop. It's like, why would we waste our time and energy figuring this out when we can just get the best answer in days? And that's what it is.
So in this field of marketing, it's like results is the key, like producing.
Well, that's going to be the catalyst to you being really successful. If you just like to make blog posts, you can make a very handsome $50,000 a year just editing and making pictures with blog posts, right? Like my first clients, they would pay me $600 to $800. And all I would do for them, I would help them edit their blog post. I would put it to WordPress and I would send out a MailChimp email. And that's low level marketing, right? Because what are those people doing? They're building their reputation and brand in their niche community. They don't have money for Facebook ads. That's not what they're not trying to go global, right? They're like a trainer or some sort of coach or expert. So yes, results are critical, but there's so many people who actually don't get them and can still make a lot of money. So I don't want to scare people. Like you can, because results, of course, if you're the one who is getting the results, you're going to make millions. I hope to one day. But like if you get a job for someone as the marketing coordinator, like your CEO, he may fire you if you do a bad job, but if you just do an average job, you still get paid. There's tons of work in that area where it's like, hey, we know we need to put out 2 posts a day and we need someone to do that. Like we don't care if you get sales, because digital media and marketing has become now sort of a floor. You can't go below. Like you can't be a successful Fortune 500 with empty social media anymore. Well, who's going to do all that work? There isn't 500 great digital agencies. And so there is so much work out there, because what about the Fortune 5,000? Like that's just the 500. Forget about them. See where I'm going with this? I feel like I can take all your questions forever. That's the problem with this stuff, is like, once we unpack digital marketing, we're also unpacking branding and business building, and then we're unpacking culture, because that's happening right now. We're shifting the cultural norms around business, and that's unlocking this massive like wave of opportunity for people like myself, who were just like a video editor or like, you know, a website maker 5 years ago. We are the kings right now because we are the ones observing data at a high level and can then give that answer to other people. It's like, hey, it's red button, not blue button. Hey, it's big, bold headline, not small headline. Like we know what kind of works. So yes, results are great, but the marketer is never the sole results provider. Why? Because we don't create the product and we don't deliver the service and we don't necessarily deliver. So marketing is before product. And so what if the product is shitty and people return it? Whose fault is that? You know, and I think that I do want to preach results, but I also want people to know like, hey, there's so much work available, and don't be scared to put your name out there, because what you're doing may actually be non-quantifiable. Like for instance, if you're making blog posts for someone that don't actually sell anything, like what is the value of that? The value of that is that other people come to that person's website and be like, wow, look at all these blog posts. There's a feeling attached with a content library. And so most people don't know the value of that. So is there results? Well, it's in the eye of the beholder, right? It's in the perception of the business owner. So results are very subjective. What is results, right?
So that was, I think that was the thing I was alluding to with these questions. Like the opportunities feel so like, if I've known when I started that I could just like make videos for companies, just edit them, like
Right.
make 10 videos, and I know how to make them like 10 times faster than the ordinary old agency or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you have that, and you have WordPress blogging. You could, I mean, just to get started right now, to quit your job and to get paid tomorrow, to just like offer blog posts to like 50 companies around your area.
Absolutely. Cold outreach, when thoughtful and done right, can work. Most people just spam. If you write a thoughtful email where you go to like, let's imagine there's a company and they sell bikes, okay, and they're local to you and they're made in the town, and it's like everyone loves this bike company because they provide the local quality bike, right? It's like, hey, dear bike shop, you know, I went to your YouTube, there wasn't really anything there, you know, and I think there's a huge opportunity for you to promote yourself, or, you know, this is an example. And then you can open with something like, hey, I've looked into what you're doing and I just see so much opportunity for you. Would you like to discuss with me how I can help you by making videos, or how I can help with editing your blog posts, or how I can make Facebook ads? I think that is, most people are underestimating that does work, that can work. So you're right. You're absolutely right. There's opportunity, but it is also emerging more than ever, especially through the Gary Vee era, because he was the first to tell you like more content is better. He was the first case study to say more content is better. Before it was like, oh, it's too much, we're annoying them. Like, that's not the case anymore because of the algorithmic changes due to the culture of social media. We got so many people on social media. The algorithm now needs to filter the poor quality stuff. And so you only end up getting what you like. And so there is no harm in putting out more because people get what they like. If they like you, they will get more and they will actually be happier. If they haven't been engaging with you, no problem. Your extra posts aren't going to them anymore. No big deal.
Yeah. That's really something also, like you talk about it all the time also, like when you make videos, when you make content, stuff happens.
It
I
does.
mean,
It
something
does.
magical happens.
It does. It opens up so many conversations. Every brand out there who needs to promote themselves is looking at the current content creators to how can they connect. And so a lot of it's just affiliate programs like, Canva, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just emailed me the other day and say, hey, we really like your channel. Will you become an affiliate for us? And so it's like a private access program, but it's because they like my videos, which I've never even mentioned Canva before, but they see an audience that is ripe because they know I use Canva. I am a pro member. I am an ideal customer. So would my audience be, right? And I think that would only happen through content. And I had to do zero canvassing to reach out for that. And now, I'm not going to sell Canva hard now, but I mean, I'll add a link when it's relevant, and that's just a brand new income stream. It's just as if I bought, 10 shares of Coca-Cola, and now I've got a little affiliate trickling dividend coming in. And that's interesting. And you're right. Content is what starts that.
Okay, so maybe this is a good time to segue into the future of remote work, because we talked about all the opportunities, and like the opportunities arising at the same time as people are learning to work remotely.
Right.
So those two worlds will collide. And as I think, what's your thought of the future of this? How common will it be with people working remotely with stuff like this?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Well, I'm a leader in the remote work conversation. I've been preaching remote work far earlier than 2020 because I experienced it early on. And after I read 4 Hour Work Week in 2004, I only saw the world that way. I only saw the world through outsourcing. And now, although I never really heavily used outsourcing, the same things applied. It was essentially like the internet has come to alleviate many of our pains. And one of that pain is doing work you don't really like, because the outsourceable VA became a thing. I may have told this story before, but I planned my wedding with the VA. Like, I told my VA, hey, go find me the best limo company, find me the best restaurants for this, get me this. And it saves you so much time and research. Who wants to do like low level research, right? So that mentality of like, first of all, the internet's here. How are you going to use it, right? I think it's like, first you got to clear away all the garbage, all the distractions, you eliminate, you automate, you liberate. This was like the Tim Ferriss model. And it was hard for me to apply it at first. I was a bit younger, but it never went away for me. And it's like, as soon as I realized like the laptop lifestyle was valid, as soon as you could travel remember, in the early 2000s, like if you went to Mexico, there was no guarantee of good Wi-Fi. If you went to, some part of Russia, there was no guarantee of good Wi-Fi. And so this digital nomad thing wasn't real yet. It was just emerging. And I think like I found it so alluring, like I was watching it so closely, like who's going to become a digital nomad? That's what I was asking myself every day, because I was like, well, it's certainly not going to be someone who has a job. It can't be. So that's out of the question. So I never thought about getting a job anymore. It's like, well, is it going to be a drop shipper? I thought it was drop shipping too, like many others. And I looked into that world and I thought it was affiliate marketing like many others. It wasn't any of that. None of that made enough money or was strong enough. It was consulting that I saw was going to be key. I read The $1 Million Consultant and decided to start formulating my life as a consultant. And, that was like, oh, well, if I'm going to be a consultant, I can just have all my conversations online. And although it didn't happen at first, like 3 years ago, I had some clients in the city I was living, and I just said to them, like, listen, we're not going to meet anymore. Like, we don't need to meet. Nothing happened from that. That wasn't bad at all. And I think that I made a conscious effort about 3 years ago. Like, I'm no longer going to take a single job that forbids me from moving. That is not part of my plan. And so that conscious effort was there. And ever since then, I've just been talking about that, how possible this is, because when you commit to that idea, you will make it come true versus, I can take this job of, even though I can't leave my city right now, it pays well, it's okay. Like, you got to say no to that, actually. How does that all sound?
It rings a bell. That was how I got into it right now. I was the job security wasn't there anymore. It
Right.
promised to be there, but it
Right.
wasn't. And it was like,
Exactly.
okay, I'm doing this.
That's part of that as well, that the job security was becoming faulty. You heard many times since 2001, 2008, layoffs, huge layoffs, automation, machines, outsourcing. Like, that was a very common narrative, especially for the West. I'm interested to know that it's also in Sweden. Um, so yeah, I think that was a big part for me too. It's like, why would I take that risk? And Tim Ferriss really helped you see, like, the bigger risk may not be what you think it really is. And I think that's very important for many people to kind of step back and be like, what is the big risk here? Like, and that's a good key thing. Now, you also ask, will it grow? It's going to be the only thing. The whole world will live in a digital realm, it seems. I'm not necessarily rooting for that. I'm a high believer of natural law and natural ideas. I think it's going to be hugely detrimental to the society as a whole to go into a complete digital realm. But I just think, with what's going on right now, it's hard not to believe that remote work doesn't become the norm. And so I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I put a substantial amount of money, far more than I've ever put into the market recently, primarily on work from home stocks, such as eBay, Upwork, Slack, which has not been performing that well, but I do think it has a chance. Earnings are coming up. What else do we got in there? Amazon, I don't own a lot of it, but I think it is still a big winner right now. Hopefully it will split. That will create this, mega movement like we've seen with Apple. Apple, I think people don't understand, is also work from home essentially because they're providing the devices. Peloton, the biking, they're really popping off for me recently. Wayfair, people are going to be ordering their furniture online now. So yeah, everything is going digital, everything is going remote. And that really speaks to the opportunities I mentioned earlier. We are the ones facilitating these transitions.
So what will this mean for us as digital marketers? You mentioned it somewhere that like we have this head start.
Right.
Like what would this mean to us?
It'll mean that we'll be better positioned as professionals as a whole because we've been using Zoom longer. We've been using Slack longer. Like, we've already been using these tools. So that will help us. We're going to get a lot more work. But I want to also say this, like, now it's actually the best time to get a job. And that's counter to what we just said. But if that job is remote, everything changes. If your job is remote, you can still have the lifestyle I'm having. You just have a one committed client. Now, is it still as good as client work, or is that potential? Maybe not. But let's not pretend like client work is such an amazing, amazing feeling thing. It's hard. You're living up to someone's expectations. Just imagine how you felt about your parents and your project science fair work or whatever. Like, someone's expecting results from you. And so it's not that easy. When you're employed, like, there's kind of this understanding, like, well, do your best. We'll keep paying you. And like, we'll discuss as we go. You're not sort of this isolated responsibility holder. And so there is a slight difference. So I like more than ever people to get a job as long as it's remote. What do you think about that?
I think it will be more of an negotiation point.
Absolutely.
Now that you could, like, people have tried working from home,
right?
they know it works. The results are still there,
Right.
obviously.
Mhm.
So I think people will use it to leverage that.
Yeah, and I hope it helps people be happier, because the fact is you don't need 8 hours a day to get a lot of work done in the mid to professional realms. Now, if you're unfortunately sort of, working in the Amazon warehouse, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. You'll be pushed to the max. And that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about people skilling up, investing in themselves, not accepting just a warehouse job and being like, I can understand this stuff. I can learn digital marketing. I can become a communicator. There has to be that self-belief um, coming through, but then, yes, taking advantage of that confidence, convincing people to let you work remotely. And I don't think it's going to be that hard. I just think that, if people are that productive because they're happier, like the salaries will maintain. And look, business owners, they need to get something from their employees. And I think each person is kind of showing how they look at that, right? Like, we've got humans in this world who will go above and beyond, they'll stay late. And then we've got people who will do the absolute minimum, who are learning how to waste time as a professional skill. Like, we've taught people how to waste time because we've created this arbitrary clock in which you must use to find your productive hours. And I don't think that's what makes productive people. Like 8 straight hours, like that's not a good idea. So it should open up a lot of value in the marketplace, we could say.
I read somewhere that I think it's 90 minutes productive work a day for the average American.
Yeah, sounds
So
right.
yeah, and that was something that drove me to be just the idea of like I could go, or I mean, I have to be here. The realization that I have to be at that work be at one place. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I think like now more than ever, we should actually turn the conversation to family design, right? I mean, like the mom wants dad to be home as much as possible. Am I wrong about that? I mean,
No,
isn't that really what's so critical here, that we're properly parenting our children with a formative father figure, not some of this like drags himself in home with an unhappy face and perhaps having a beer or whatever. Like, that is not leading us to the society we want. And it comes from that. I think the work world as is, let's not even talk about that it's a two-income world. Let's just talk about the male and like how difficult it is to buy a house and raise a family on the incomes that are currently being offered. And I think people should see that something very subtle has been happening for 10 to 20 years, that the computers, the automation, that it is taking over. It is better than you. It's more reliable than you. And so what that tells me as a human being, I need more creativity in my work. I need to create more unique processes that people can't mimic. I need to be personal branding myself so I can stand out and show people that I'm serious. There has to be some adjustments from how do I make my resume look better by lying a little bit differently this time. I mean, that is why we're here, is that we educate in this vague way, and then we hire in this poor sort of, how can we trick each other that this is a great job and that I'm a great worker? Like, that's what's happening in these interviews. And you see in my business, it's a little bit weird, but you essentially have to pay me before I will even consider hiring you. I'm hiring my students because they are showing how dedicated and serious they are to the craft, which suggests to me they'll be more invested. Do you see how that's like a subtle change that's happening under this employment-based dynamic? I mean, we have to find people that are passionate, and there's so little passion left in this world. Ask me why that is.
why is that?
It's just too expensive to have a passion. You can't afford passion anymore. You have to just listen to the mark and be like, well, I better do that so I can afford my bread, my children's clothes. Like, it is just outrageously, we're in a very strange time right now where money is very uncertain of its value.
How you went a lot into that during the deep COVID days. What are your thoughts on that right now? on the stock market and the economy.
Well, it's tricky. The stock market, there's two big factors that we have to sort of reconcile as we watch it reach all-time highs. One, the stimulus, the 6 trillion, the 10 trillion, that is unprecedented amounts of cash being printed. And that's all going into the stock market because there's nowhere better. When interest rates are at zero, you don't put your money in the bank, you put them in equities. And that is where all the money's going. And all these companies are forced to invest. It's like, it keeps itself going. But just because the stock's price is at an all-time high, we should also recognize the dollar may be at an all-time low. And that just because Amazon's at 3,000, that $3,000 isn't what it used to be at this very moment. A, because of stimulus, and B, because they've been sort of manipulating inflation over the past 20 years. And it is harmed the value of the dollar. And I think that's because the way they set it up, and I don't want to get too much into that, but because oil is basically tied to the value of the dollar, it creates this scenario where the dollar will always be high because people have to use it. And so they really enjoy the US dollar. People have a good feeling about US dollars because it's so prominent and safe. But what has that done over the last 100 years is that a lot of trickery has been occurring in the background, and how one president and one economic board relates the interest rates may be different from the next and the next. And so we're in this never-ending debt cycle, where as long as we can keep printing more, we can keep the debt going. And so we're in this permeable culture where nobody wants to end the stock market on their watch, because you have to understand the way stocks work is that it's not artificially propped, but it's a self-fulfilling thing. And it's like, if it ever came crashing down, it could come all the way down because the systems that keep it alive may require that liquidity in there, right? It's like, if people aren't buying stocks and they don't believe in the stock market, a whole huge industry sector could be erased, leading to another, crash experience. But I think what's happening underlying all this is the US dollar is becoming very weakened. I think that I can't really say what I want to say in this interview about this scenario. And I don't know if I ever will be able to share it because it is not appropriate to share anymore. And I think what I'm saying right now is the message that I want people to hear. Why would Rich not say what he's saying? Why would he not do that? And you have to understand what that means and why that's a problem.
Scary. Let's move into a topic where like if you're into learning digital marketing, and if you're into building your business, and wherever you are in your journey, it's easy to, when you consume a lot of content, also like to think that you're not that way ahead. Like maybe it's the imposter syndrome kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, how valuable would you say, like, even if you're just starting out and know a little bit more or like that, how valuable is a digital marketer that can do stuff?
It's going to range, I mean, how valuable is a microscope? I mean, it depends on who's using it, I mean, it's a tough question, but I think what you said,
it's like as a contrast to where most businesses are with their digital presence. It's like, if you learn a few things, like a lead magnet or something like that, if you learn to perform that, it's such a huge leap, I would think, from my perspective, for that business.
Yeah. Because that's a great way to take it and kind of narrow this in. Is like, what I've taught my students is the underlying psychology of sales. There's a subconscious thing happening when people buy things, right? And I think if you can understand that, you have like the golden ticket to work with anyone, because the psychology doesn't change whether you're selling a boat or you're selling, a toy to a child through the parents' wallet, or you're selling, a television set or a video game computer, these things, like, it doesn't really matter. The person is going through the same psychological experience. And if you can understand that process and show businesses how to apply that to their users' experience, that is really where you can bring tremendous value, because what you're essentially doing is having a greater empathy for your customer and understanding them a little bit better. That's what comes alive here. And that's why businesses fail. They truly don't understand what's in the market, what is the need, who is providing what's the differentiating factors. So yes, they're incredibly valuable. And I think it is common to think you're far behind, because by the nature of Instagram and YouTube, you are by nature watching people typically more popular than you. And there's a lot of them out there. But that is not digital marketing. And not every YouTuber could provide a digital marketing service to a client. Don't forget, it's not the digital marketing strategy that is the hardest part about all this. It's the act of providing it in a professional manner in which your client perceives a greater value than the fee they paid you, right? You don't have to be some superstar genius that understands every algorithm. You can simply be the one saying, like, you should be making videos for YouTube, and these are the 10 videos I think would do really well for you. That may be a small consultation, but that's ultimately what it is, as simply is. But if I come to the presentation with a nice deck and I show them what the competitors have done, and then I show them how they should differentiate themselves, and then I hand them a process that they can do internally, I think they'll find that quite valuable. And I think that's what's going on. And I think people are going to overestimate how much strategy you need. And I think they're underestimating how much professionalism and presentation there is required when you face clients. And I don't mean to throw shade. I'm in a different place than you. But even as I come to this call, I've provided the full professional experience I can at all times. Because remember earlier in the call, I said, I want to be known as a consultant. I need people to perceive me in a certain way. I need to magnetize them. So this is part of that strategy. And I highly recommend all my digital marketers out there to start investing in their workstation, in their light, in their microphone, and in their knowledge of producing quality video in a live format. Because as we also talked about earlier, it'll only be this. I tweeted the other day that I had 620 Zoom calls in the last year. So that needs to be a place where you invest in the highest quality presentation at all times. Everything in life is a presentation, Adam, everything. And so as soon as you think about it like that, you can become even better as a marketer.
Noted. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing about the content, to elaborate a little bit, is um, it's easy to think, like, if you go into the weeds a lot, like if you focus on one or a lot of skills, and they go so deep, you might think that you know less than you do. You know what I mean? Like, you can still be an expert being a few chapters ahead.
Absolutely. That is the Dunning-Kruger effect, is that people overestimate their knowledge and then they underestimate it as they actually become more experienced, because you realize how much is out there. And that's very common. And there's no real answer to it, except that you can just ask other people, like, do you think I'm ready? And they'll tell you, right? You're never going to know when the time is right that you're the expert. And I think that I'm trying to take the approach that, like, I'm not the expert. I am someone who is willing to show what I'm learning to the people who are 1 to 3 years behind me so they can catch up to me. I'm not trying to act like I'm beyond anyone, or that I want to be beyond them. And that's what's so powerful about my style, is I think it's inclusive. And I think there needs to be more strategies, at least for like experts and consultants, that, yeah, you don't have to think about like, oh, I could never do a Microsoft digital marketing console. Yeah, I wouldn't try either. I don't want to. Why would you want that pressure either? What about all these other micro influencers who if they think you're the expert, trust me, because they don't know anything. It's all about that perceived, understanding of what I know versus what you know. And it is so, so common that people are like, I know nothing. I don't know anything, Rich. And that's great. You can help them, but also realize, like, let's not lie. These are also the same people who pay less because they don't see the value. They're unconsciously unconscious about the power of digital marketing. And so they don't even know what it's worth. And so it's hard to charge them a lot. Whereas there's a law firm out there who they're spending 50K on their marketing and they don't really feel like the results are coming. They really are hungry for a new pair of eyes, and they're willing to pay a lot for someone who's been around the block and can be like, yes, you're getting overcharged, or nope, this is kind of reality. And maybe you've made the mistake. Like that's valuable to someone who's already running a $10 million business. And I think that digital marketers have to be prepared to raise their price every single quarter and roll with it. And they'll see where they get to. I was just having a challenge selling a 2K service 2 years ago. And now the other day I signed a deal for 60,000. Like, that's how it works. Like you grow into it, you gain more experience, you become more comfortable with where you're at, but you can never go into this endless wondering, like, am I good enough? And that's why I use the mantra, I accept myself, because I'm doing the best I can. If I'm not the best, it's going to be okay, but I have to accept where I am, and I can't keep self-hating and self-critiquing forever. I must just go with it, and it will all play out. The right things will happen. And if you need more work, if you need more experience, you'll figure that out too,
Great. I feel like that was a great conclusion, or a great place to end, maybe.
Perhaps, but I feel like I was very harsh and realistic and not that applicable to all. I want people to get serious. I want them to hear this and be like, oh shit, Rich is getting me serious. Like, I need to take action. But let's break it down a little bit to something that they can do. Like, let's find that answer. Like, let me ask you, you have a couple clients. What is your next milestone that you want to hit?
I would love to say that I had a fixed number, and I know I should have, but I mean, I've been always looking for are we talking goals right now, or
Yeah,
next?
like, what is the thing you want to feel next that's happening in your life? Like, maybe it's like, oh, I have someone working for me, or maybe it's like, oh, I'm taking on a $10,000 consultation, or it's I have 5 clients. Like, what's the next thing on your list that, like, why am I not here yet?
Yeah, it's all those things combined to have more clients, to get the revenue flow, to get that freedom of having tools at your disposal, and,
Right.
and resources.
So
And to
how
have
many
that.
people do you talk to every week about digital marketing that are not currently your clients?
So we just started a sales rush. So
Who's
we're doing
we,
a lot of.
by the way?
I actually got a partner.
Oh, good. Okay, interesting. And so will he take on sales, or will you take on sales?
We're doing it both right now. I'm doing a lot of like video assessments, video presentations, and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and being a little bit of the face of
Mm-hmm.
the sales.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing a lot of emailing, prospecting,
Mm-hmm.
structuring. So we're kind of complementary to each other on that sense.
Cool. I recommend that you ask your partner to outreach to me, and I will give you guys some feedback on how it feels to receive your outreach. If he's doing it in Swedish, maybe he can translate it. But are you guys outreaching in Swedish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we took a real pragmatic approach to this. So we were talking about all the kinds of niches would be
Mm-hmm.
available, and then we realized, like, I have this. At least we have this. After all the struggles with my couple of clients, I at least have this solid case study with a
Give
solid
me an
result.
example of one of the niches you chose.
So we chose now is the gym niche that I had this
Okay.
this result for.
Mhm,
So we made a lead magnet with a case
mhm,
study video basically. So we're doing some emails pointing them directly to that opt-in for that video case study, and then I'm doing personal videos of like 3 minutes,
mhm.
like doing a mini assessment of their like Facebook pixel and trying to explain the value of investing in that, trying to help out and build a relationship and then take it forward.
I highly consider that if you've got some niches in mind, you do something like this. You create a deck presentation, and it's called 10 critical actions every gym must take in 2020 due to coronavirus.
Love
And it's
it.
like, hey, we would like to present this to you and your team for free. You can bring anyone you want. You just have to join this call. It'll be 30 minutes. We believe we have marketing solutions for the now, but we just like to bring you some value. You don't have to hire us. You know, I think coming in with something powerful, a little bit more content driven, that you need to get them in a better sales scenario, right? Like when you're already sending like mini micro videos, the person never asked. And so they might not even want to think about what you're saying. Whereas if you can reach the business owner and get them excited about some new information that they don't have yet, and while you have them on that call, you can seamlessly say, like, we can provide these 10 things and this is the cost. Um, I think that's exciting. I think that you want to have them in this emotional state of like hearing the opportunity, seeing what they're doing wrong, and then knowing there's someone that took the time to explain this. Like, it's a bit of a modern take on the situation, but I would do that if I was in your situation. I would also be way more critical of the email outreach you're doing. I cannot stress enough that 90% of the email outreach is absolutely atrocious of what I read. I instantly erase or spam. It's very hard to do it. You need to be very thoughtful about your opening line. It has to be very personalized. There has to be one very clear action they can take. It cannot be this long-winded explanation. And that's why I like going in like, hey, we just finished this presentation and we'd love to show it to your team next. If you've got some time next week, click below. We'll book it in. Bring whoever you want. No obligation. And then I just think that those who want to grow their business may come in, whereas those who weren't interested, they just don't do anything and you don't have to spend that much time with them. I mean, there's endless tactical approaches to this. It sounds like you're in a good spot with your partner, but be a bit more harsh on your outreach because you need calls every week. If you need revenue, you need calls every week. Um, because what happens is when you don't have enough calls coming in, you feel trapped by the ones that do. Like you have to say yes. And a lot of times you may not want that client. Have you had that experience yet?
Definitely. Yeah.
Right. So I would also set a minimum price from now on. And that has to include like setting up everything. Like, that process of discovery, of like setting up their folders in Google Drive, sending them an email, like you have to price that in. And so it doesn't matter what you serve, there has to be a minimum cost. Now, maybe it's 3K, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 10. I don't know if you have a partner. I think that's important. And I think that way you don't waste a single moment with people who are like, maybe this is $300 and that'll be great. Like those are the clueless people. There's no point of being in business at that price point because you can't even advertise your service eventually. It eats up too much of your margin, right? There's so little margin in agency as it is that's why as soon as you get a few clients under your belt, I would also work into more of either software or information and try and sell something a little bit more scalable because agency is not that scalable. It can bring you money right away and good money, but you still have to work every day or relatively, right? Whereas once your agency has 4 clients, 6 clients, then you go make a little product about all those clients. Like here is our gym business boot camp kit, right? And then it's like 95 or 195 or 595, whatever. And it's like for all those people who you gave the presentation for who don't want your services now, they can just downsell into the product. They can watch it on with their own self and you don't have to do anything. And that's a downsell. But it all comes from committing to that niche and like building out that deck that brings in that attention. It starts with attention, right? And the problem with cold email and cold videos is like, you don't actually have their attention yet. And you're giving all this stuff without having the attention. Whereas if you create a deck, it's like, hey, are you curious what's in my deck? Do you want to know how we took client A to this mark in 90 days? Right? And hopefully you have something that's a little better than what's on YouTube. And you probably will, because very few people are putting out digital marketing education for gyms in a professional way on YouTube. Right now, it's like general digital marketing still, right?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a interesting spot here, because I'm totally on board, like devoting yourself to your niche and to
Right.
really go deep to serve them better,
Mm-hmm.
and it's better for everyone. And but in this spot, like I think we would go for another niche that are more ikigai
Yep.
close, but this felt pragmatic, and this is like, I mean, I'm all for running businesses with the heart and with passion, and with
Mm-hmm.
those components. But this is like, okay, let's be pragmatic. We have this case study that will makes things easier for us to get the ball rolling. We get a few clients, we can pick and choose more. We can don't feel that knife on the throat pressure when choosing another niche.
Yeah, man. I don't even think you need a niche, like necessarily. You talked about a niche, and I think that's how I would approach it. But yeah, I mean, hopefully your deck that you make for the fitness groups, you can just like cross out fitness and put like laser clinics, and then you can cross that and you can put like, I don't know, local market or grocery store. I don't know. I mean, like, yes, it's great you have the case study, but that case study can somewhat be transferable to other things. I mean, I think it's good that you open up to more people. I mean, I think in Sweden, I don't think you have that much competition yet. So why would you just go into gyms? Like, you should go into law firms, medical clinics, the highest priced professional services out there, insurance, because they have the most money, and those are needs-based businesses. They're not going to go away. Well, maybe not laser clinics, but um,
Yeah.
fitness fitness isn't a high margin industry, man. It's like, it's not really the ideal. Fitness influencer is going to break the game anyways. Like, a gym will get knocked out by the best influencers because people want to train with special people, not at a location, right? And I think that you definitely need a couple other niches.
Yeah.
Tech,
uh,
Swedish tech companies. Have you gone into that? Those people are the most open-minded. They're doing a startup. Like, you could get in on the ground floor. Maybe you get paid 2K a month plus a bit of equity, or I don't know. I mean, yeah, I definitely want you to look into some more profitable niches. Why not? It's the same work.
yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It's more, I think, it's more getting the what do you say, the feet off the ground faster
Yep,
to hit the ground running, basically.
totally.
Like
Totally.
we want 10 more clients yesterday, a little bit, like we
Right.
want
But
to.
here's the problem, man. Like, you guys can't handle 10 more clients tomorrow. You actually maybe want one bigger, juicier client that kind of like sustains a lot and then be dabbling as well, right? Like, the more clients, the more challenge. So be careful. Like, if you, like, let's say you both want to make 5K a month, so you need 10K cash flow in. I mean, you're much better off with 4K clients than 10 1K clients, right? Because 10 1K clients means outsourcing right away, probably cutting into the margin. However, maybe you're thinking it's an easier process. It's simpler. Like, we just get them in and they just get 4 videos. Great. I think if you're thinking like that, and you're thinking about more of like a deliverable conveyor belt, that's cool. But if you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
consulting and strategy and branding, like, you kind of want to have a niche, right? So
Yeah.
it sounds like maybe you're getting into content delivery, which is cool. I think that that's so unsaturated. No one does it hardly. But I think that you need to take the approach that you have some creative edge, because software and other companies will deliver very cost-effective content repurposing in the next 2 years. Like, it's going to be a common thing. Like, I'll just tell you right now, someone has approached me to provide me basically a video edit, a video thumbnail, a quote, in 3 different aspect ratios for all 3. So 9 pieces of content every day for under 700 US. Now, I don't know what you think about that, but to me, that sounds quite cost effective. But what they
Yeah.
don't offer, they don't help you pick the clip. They don't add too much creativity. You kind of design it at the beginning. You work with a designer to come up with the outline. If you want to know who this company is, I'll tell you. Maybe you want to go mimic them. But that's only if you get their premium daily plan. If you go to once a week or lower, it's much more expensive. That is the premium value option. They want you in on that. But I want to make it clear that 700 for that much content, it's pretty cost effective. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're up against it. And so if you want to do that, that's okay. But own the Swedish culture around that, and have some elements of creativity. Like, hey, we're going to help you pick your best clips. Hey, we're going to help you with your video strategy so that you know what to create. Like, I would try and have that as an upsell as well.
It's not content where it's the scale of building the funnels,
Right.
basically,
So you want to do
that.
only funnels.
Yeah, like to have that as the main project, or at least try to steer them to that, because that will be an initial fee.
Right. So I think like you
Fee.
should make sure that you refer to it more as lead generation, automatic lead generation, bringing you
Okay.
emails at a very
Yeah.
cost-effective rate. Because what the funnel essentially does is it entices people to put their email in.
Yeah.
And then it creates an automated experience around that. And so people don't want to talk funnels, they want to talk lead gen. So make sure you're like, hey, my company bills automated lead gen through Facebook and Instagram. We can help you get like leads for less than $3 to $5 for email. And you can really promise that. Like, you can actually get dollar leads if you're good, especially Sweden probably. But yeah, lead gen. I understand it. You know why I was thinking you wanted to do content is because you told me you do video and stuff. And also, don't forget, funnel is kind of a one-time build in a sense. It's not every month, whereas content can be every month.
That's I think the beauty of this, because I have that video background. I think I can mix it in with the ad.
Yeah,
that's the funnel maintenance, the ad work, and the like content.
Yes. So you really are using my model as well. I think you're following it very closely.
Yes.
You see what I'm doing. Yes. Yeah, for sure. Great.
You know what, I want to get your thoughts on this, because I was interviewed by some students here that goes in a program in my small town that's called digital content production.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, do you want to do like what do you call it, internship? And they're dying for it.
Yeah.
But basically, I've opened up this well of a lot of leads to people who could do like really okay production. And that's all I need, for at least for my clients.
Right.
When I can, my personal brand, my agency, I can work with someone better. But I'm like, I could probably have to work with them to get the content. I'm trying one of them now, and it's like, you will get there. I mean, it's a time effective, I don't know, but I think there's some kind of scale to that. Do you think there's possibility to have like a little army of content creators?
I think that is possible. I think it all comes down to like, if they're coming in pre-trained, that really, really helps, because that is what I find to be difficult, is like, how do you get people up to speed? Do they have a computer? Do they have Adobe Premiere? Like, so yeah, I do think so. And I mean, that's partly why I put out educational content, is to find out people who are learning and serious, and I attract them into the business. I think you do want that, because you want people who learn under you. You don't want people coming in with some other different agency models and then they're like, oh, well, we didn't do it this way. It's like, well, okay, well, that's how we do it. But you see what I mean? Like, it's really great to have access to students, I think, and especially in marketing.
And young people who are native to YouTubing. And
of course. Absolutely. And I think that when they look at the job prospects, like digital marketer / social media marketer, plus the fact that they know that would lead them into doing their own personal stuff, like, that's just too attractive to ignore for most people.
Yeah. And it's like, tying back to what we started talking about, like that student, she's like looking for jobs in like a barista or something. I'm like,
Yeah,
you know how many businesses would love to have someone make content for them,
totally.
because people are waking up to the realization, hey, we can't do this.
Yeah,
It's impossible for us. We don't know at least even what to do.
right, right. And it's like, why would they want to invest in all the equipment? Why would they want to set up a new office space? Like if you can do it remotely in some capacity, like that's going to be so attractive as well. I think that's what's amazing is like you can get started with the laptop you have already. That's all you need really to do everything. Maybe a camera, but your client should often provide the base level footage and stuff you use, but funnels, websites, all laptop, all doable tomorrow.
I like, I mean, those two clients I'm working with, they're doing all their content now. I'm just editing it and
Right.
like
Yeah. That is the
curating
model. That is the model.
I think it's looking good. Could I have you expand on that, like the productization
Mm-hmm.
of the service?
Right.
You mentioned the gym, and I really like that, like to have that as a downsell, or
Yes.
not even as a downsell in the future, to have in whatever uh, audience you're servicing, to have that digital product. Let's say now we have that gym example. What would you say be like, what would the MVP be for that product? Like a few videos, a program,
Yep.
what
Basically,
please.
yep, you got it. You're figuring it out. Essentially, it's the do it yourself version of whatever you are going to do for them. And it's just like, here's what you got to do. Here's some videos to explain why you would do it. It's essentially that person saying, look, I don't have 5K for you to build my funnel, but I know how to use WordPress. I already run my own website. Like, if you want to just give me like a little course, um, that something I could take. And I think that it also requires you to listen to your objections. Like if people say price isn't a problem, then you also want to ask them, like, is it the value that's the issue, right? Because if it's valuable enough, they should want to pay it. But sometimes businesses just don't have the cash. And look at where we are right now. People don't have tons of extra cash. Um, so I think like giving them the option that, hey, we won't do this for you, but we can provide you a training program that we've designed, and we will follow up with you to make sure you've implemented it, and we'll answer any questions along the way. It's a third of the cost of our full service. So instead of the 5K, it's only 1,200, and that comes with the consultation call at the end. And it is what it is, right? I mean, you're getting into the world of education because that's what consulting is so much, knowledge transfer. And so you can transfer them the how to of that case study without being in their presence. And that's a great skill to develop as well, right? That's realizing like, hey, as soon as I can make money and help people while I'm sleeping, I have made it, because this removes the time constraints I have in my life. So always thinking like, I have to be awake to go do this client work. What could be working for me while I'm sleeping? And that really unlocks massive potential for people.
That feels like your main path right now, to build
Indeed.
that library of
Mm-hmm.
digital products.
Mm-hmm.
How,
Yep.
where are you on that path?
Yeah, I am on that path. Absolutely. And I think that it's part of the evolution of our current culture. And it's just like, they'd rather do things on their own time than be forced to show up and be present just because that's the only way to communicate. So letting people watch videos at their own speed, at their own time, wearing whatever they want, in the morning, in the night, when their kid's sleeping, like, you're still bringing value. Not everyone's dumb. Not everyone can't do it on their own. And I think that there should be an offer there. And so all I'm doing, I still have clients. It's just most people are doing it themselves now. I do the exact same thing for my clients as I share in my education. So you can do what I do, but I won't be there with you. But you will know what I do. And that in itself will be enough for many people who can figure it out. And that's what a lot of people like. Why? Because then they create all the excess value because they took the action on my $300 course. They created $100,000 extra in their life. They did it. They took advantage of a low cost offer instead of having someone handhold them paying 10K. Now they only made a 10 times return instead of a 100 times return. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
My students are just my clients. It's the same thing. And I'm trying to make sure that when they're on their own, they're taken care of. And that's what prevents people from asking for money back. That's what prevents bad reviews. It's like you did the best you could without being there.
It's that I guess it's that service mindset of a
Absolutely.
great digital marketer,
Absolutely.
to be like always serving.
That's right. It's a great place to be at, man. I think that service gives us purpose. Service makes us act differently. You know, it's something we haven't been brought up enough with, like that we should be thinking about serving others, not ourselves. And that's how we actually become more wealthy, is that it's too many young people are like, how do I protect myself and forget about what other people need? I was there myself. I remember changing over to sort of a gratitude service-based mentality. It really helps. It's an underrated thing.
Yeah. So it's getting kind of late. Should we wrap it up?
Absolutely, my man.
Is
Thank you so
is
much
it?
for these questions.
Thanks for answering them. So I'm stopping the recording now.
Well, let's officially wrap it up.
Yeah.
Let's say thank you to everyone who listened today. And if you're out there and want to become a better digital marketer, you know, you can follow at Rich and Niche on Insta and Twitter. You can come to my website, richandniche.com. We got Adam Timander, who interviewed me today, graciously gave up his time and brought you guys some deeper insights into how I see things. He is a past student of mine, one of my top performing full stack marketing funnel students. Believe you're registered for the academy in September. Is that correct?
Yep.
Excellent, man. You're going to get tons of value out of that because that is designed for my graduates to truly apply everything and have me there next to them. That's what we were talking about. I can't always be there, but what did I do? I created one place of gathering where everyone can come and get a little bit of access with a very affordable cost. And it's like, how do you give value at scale? It's a never ending thinking of that, because why wouldn't you want to bring value to as many people as possible? So that is the theory, that is the thesis, that is the belief system. And I think that I'm proud to say that it appears you are adopting a similar one. And I look forward to catching up with you probably 12 months from now to see where you're at, to see what you've done with all this. I mean, that's the cool thing about being my student. You know, it's kind of like this, well, now we have a relationship when I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. And I think it'll be great if you can come back and tell us where you're at in about 12 months.
Definitely.
All right,
And
guys.
to add on that, the academy looks great, and I can definitely see why that was a natural progression, because that it's been such a value to be in that ecosystem of,
Yes.
like, it's like
Yes.
collaborative work and
Mm-hmm.
following along. It's
Yeah.
so
It's the
nice.
future of learning. It's the future of community. It's the way people will prefer to do life. Like, it takes out this idea that you're only limited to those who live on your street. And now we have this option to be friends with people who are sharing values and life paths. We're in the same spot. And so that's more exciting, you know? And I think that everyone can cheer each other on instead of having your friends who aren't interested be like, no, man, this is dumb. Like, you shouldn't do that. You should become a lawyer instead. It's like, okay, enough of that. Right. And so, yeah, I think you're hitting on what's important, is like having people root for you. It feels very collaborative. Community is the most underrated marketing methodology there is. Building a community trumps almost everything else.
Great.
I think that does it for today.
Yeah.